traveling from one shtetl to another. And when they were traveling, in the good old days, there was no Waze or GPS. So they would look for signs. You're going to city B, looking for signs where to go. So this guy is going from one city to another, and he sees the pole directing him where to go is laying on the ground. He's stuck. Does he go right? Does he go left? Doesn't know. But by the intersection, there was a wise old man standing there, and he said, I have an idea. Pick up the pole, point it to the city where you're coming from, and then you'll know where to go. It's going to collaborate. That's what we're doing here today. We are looking at the city where we're coming from. We're looking at our history. We're looking at the giants that paved the way for us. We are midgets, but we're standing on the shoulders of giants. That's what the sages have said from day one, why we are going to merit the ultimate Mashiach, because we are midgets, but we're standing on the shoulders of giants. Okay, so without further ado, the way we like to do these classes, number one, studying Torah, studying God's holy word is a mitzvah. And when we do a mitzvah, we're bringing down spiritual energy, good energy. So we would like to direct today's study and offer a prayer to all the innocent people living in the Middle East, the innocent people living in Israel, the innocent people living in the countries nearby, that the evil that exists there should go away, should be eradicated, and the innocent people should be protected.
Amen.
And may God protect all good people in that region. With that, the way we like to do these courses is these are text-based, which means you all have a book. Those of you who don't have a book yet, it's on the way. If you didn't sign up yet, make sure you sign up, and you'll have it before next week if you're just trying this week. But we're going to go through different texts where I'd offer anyone who would like to just read or go around the room. But that's the structure of the course. There's a couple of sections here, so we will stop periodically for questions. I like questions. It's not about a lecture, it's more of an interaction. So please don't be shy. The first few got to break the ice, so good on you. Other than that, the content of what we're going to be discussing here today is incredible. We're going to be going through not just the history, we're going to be studying three individuals. And the next for this class and the following three classes, we're going to again be studying three individuals every single class. They'll be in theme, and we'll dive in some incredible things. I think the wow moment from today's class is an amazing discovery they've made in the 19th century that those of you who love music may appreciate very much. That's called the hook and the suspense. You have to wait to hear more about that. The idea of conversion in Judaism, or conversion in general when it comes to religion. So most religions out there encourage conversion, encourage going out and recruiting members for that religion. Judaism is, I think, unique in the sense that we don't encourage conversion. Not only don't we encourage, we discourage. And the reason why we discourage conversion, which we're going to open up tonight's class, is because we believe you don't need to be Jewish to merit the world to come, in the Jewish world to come. You don't have to be Jewish. God created some people Jewish, some people not Jewish, and we both have missions to make this world a better place. There's laws for the Jews, laws for everyone else, but you don't have to be Jewish to merit the world to come. I think that's a uniquely Jewish belief. The reason why I start with that is because today we're going to be discussing three converts throughout history. The point is not to encourage conversion. Let me say that again. The point why I came here today is there is no incentive or motivation to encourage conversion, but at the same time, we'll discuss the significance of conversion, and we're going to recognize the contributions they've made to our history. So without further ado, I'd like to open up on here. So let's look through some slides for a moment. There's in ancient times, obviously, paganism was the primary, religion that was practiced before Judaism, and paganism believed there were many different gods. Judaism believed that there's a universalism, which means there was a one God. And so many times universalism, one God, also comes with proselytization. Many times. But Judaism is unique that we don't have that. We have universalism. We believe that there's one God, but we do not believe in this idea of proselytizing. So the basics are as follows. For all of humanity, according to Judaism, there isn't a set of laws, but there's a set of morals. There's a set of teachings by which we believe and we conduct ourselves. There's not a lot of do's and don'ts. It's more of a belief system. That's for all of humanity. And only someone who's really persistent can convert. This is not a play hard to get tactic. This is not, in high school, you say no 3 times, hoping that the guy persists or the girl persists, and then you keep on going. This is really because we believe that you don't have to be Jewish to merit the world to come. So, the question is, why allow any converts in Judaism? And now we're going to talk about it in a moment. Let's look at text number 1, if you can, on page number 3. Maybe we'll start with Shayla. Okay?
Thanks.
Yes.
Thanks.
Get us started here.
Pick on me. Pick on me.
There you go. Yes.
I'll remember.
Interesting. You want to do it or no?
Yeah.
Okay, right here. This text. Righteous.
The righteous individuals among the nations have a share in the world to come.
Beautiful. Page 3, guys. Page 3. Do you see page 3? Text number 2.
No, I guess not.
I'm sorry. Text 1. Yes, that was text 1. Text 2 also on page 3. Joan, please.
We do not attempt to convince people to convert to Judaism, and we do not immediately accept anyone that asks to convert. There will be severe divine consequences for any Jew that proselytizes. However, we do accept non-Jews that are persistent in their desire to convert.
We believe that if somebody was created a certain way, that's their destiny, and that's fine. And as long as you're following according to Judaism, the belief and the moral code you have to live by, you have an equal merit in the world to come. We could talk about that in a different class. What does it mean, the world to come, the significance of that? It's out of the purview here. But whatever the rewards of that religion is, Judaism believes you don't have to be Jewish to merit it as long as you have the right moral code. Warren, text 3. Bechavot. Text 3 on page number 4. I don't have a book right. Oh, you don't have a book. All right.
Here we go.
Next week. Okay, next week. Ron, please.
Our sages teach that when we received the Torah at Mount Sinai all those years ago, the soul of the convert who would join us only many generations later was already present. This soul was at the incredible event at Mount Sinai, although its actual joining our people was deferred until now.
So we believe, so then the question is, why even allow conversion at all if we believe that you're created the way you're created and that's good for you? So why is there even an option for conversion in Judaism? The answer is because we believe that the soul has some sort of has a Jewish soul to it, and that soul was present at Sinai, whatever that means in a spiritual sense, and therefore this soul has to join to contribute something towards a Jewish religion. But inherently, it is absolutely not necessary. So with that prism, we're going to enter the first of our study cases, which is Onkelos. Say again? Onkelos. You ever met someone named Onkelos?
No.
Okay, now you have.
Have you?
Let's read. I've never either. Okay, Robbie, please. You see there's a little section on Onkelos, the Jewish approach to conversion? Please.
Onkelos, the Jewish approach to conversion and its view of converts can be better understood through an analysis of historic conversion cases. One such high-profile case involved an individual known to us as Onkelos, whose story takes us back to the early 2nd century. Given the tragic destruction of the Second Temple some 50 years earlier, 70 Common Era, and Israel's subjection to Roman oppression, Onkelos' conversion was particularly remarkable.
So there was in 117 CE, the Emperor Trajan died, and welcome, Judy, welcome. The Emperor Trajan died, and the Emperor Hadrian took over. Now, Hadrian, we know, initially, he even granted permission to the Jewish people to rebuild the temple, right? But eventually, Hadrian did not follow suit with that consistency, and instead of allowing the Jewish people to rebuild, he actually rebuilt Jerusalem into a different city and finally renamed the entire area. But yes, Mike.
We talked about this as being in 129 CE. What is CE
What is CE? Common Era? Yes.
as opposed to
BCE, yes, it's supposed to be CE, okay?
And-
Yeah,
And those are directly equivalent to AD and BC.
yes. Shkoyach. Yes, yes, thank you, Mike. Yes, good, okay, yes. So if you just rewind the clock, we're at 2025, rewind the clock, 117. So what
So you
Yeah.
would say 2025 CE
CE,
if you wanted to.
if you wanted to.
Right.
Yes, yes. Thank you. Yes, okay, that threw me off a little bit, yes. So what happened was the Jewish community at the time, so 70 CE was the destruction of the temple. Some say 69. We're not gonna get into that debate right now, but 70 or 69, the destruction of the temple happened. The Jewish people, for the most part, were exiled out of Israel. Who was left behind? There were some Jews left behind. And eventually there was a guy named Bar Kokhba, which lived through that area and even pushed back on the Romans. And he survived many, many decades after the destruction, holding a fort. That what? They were still celebrating Judaism despite the Roman oppression. Romans tried to conquer that area for a while without success. Finally, the Bar Kokhba revolt happened, and there was complete decimation and there was complete crushing of the Bar Kokhba group. But what happened was Hadrian, which initially turned out to be an okay guy, turned out to be a very oppressed the Jewish people tremendously. He had a nephew. The nephew's name was Onkelos. Now, if you are the emperor of Rome and you're oppressing the Jewish people, and you just finished the Bar Kokhba revolt, which was an eyesore, was a thorn in the Roman Empire, and your nephew is exploring Judaism, it's not the best combination to stay alive. So let's see text number 4, where the Midrash talks about a discussion between Onkelos and his uncle Hadrian. Let's see. Robbie just read. You guys don't have books?
We don't have a book.
Not yet. So you know it by heart then. Of course. Okay. Please, what's your name?
Donna,
Donna, please. If you can read text number 4.
Onkelos convert was the son of Hadrian's sister. He wished to convert, but he was afraid of his uncle Hadrian. Onkelos told Hadrian, I want to engage in business. If you're lacking gold and silver, Hadrian replied, my treasury is open for you. Onkelos said, I wish to travel abroad on business in order to become acquainted with other people. I would like your advice about what investments to make. Hadrian replied, when you see merchandise that is valued lowly and disregarded, invest in it. Eventually, its value will rise and you will make a profit. Onkelos traveled to the land of Israel and studied Torah. A while later, Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yehoshua, you know who we mean.
Yehoshua.
met Onkelos and noticed that his countenance was changing. They told each other, Onkelos is studying Torah. As Onkelos became close to these scholars, he began asking them many questions, and they supplied him with explanations.
Okay. Yes, please.
Onkelos returned to his uncle Hadrian. Hadrian asked him, why has your countenance changed? Your business must have failed, or maybe someone is oppressing you. No, I'm your relative. No one would oppress me. So why has your countenance changed? I have studied Torah and even circumcised myself. Well, who advised you to do such a thing? I consulted with you. When? When I asked you what merchandise to invest in. You advised me, when you see merchandise that is valued lowly and disregarded, invest in it. Eventually its value will rise. I traveled among all the nations of the world. and I could not find a nation as lowly valued and disregarded as the Jewish people. This nation is destined to rise. Hadrian's advisor told him, since Onkelos has converted, you should kill him. Hadrian replied, my nephew Onkelos was destined to convert from the moment he was conceived.
All right. So he was spared. So you have to understand, Hadrian banned circumcision, banned Shabbat, banned Torah study, banned Jewish practice from completely. He killed all the sages of his time. All the Jewish sages of his time were murdered by Hadrian. He absolutely crushed the Jewish spirit. But yet his nephew converted, and because of his nephew's, I guess, God put the right words in his mouth, he was spared. Okay, so they actually say that this commentary that say that this advisor that suggested that Onkelos was put to death actually committed suicide because Hadrian turned against him, and then he actually took his own life before Hadrian got a hold of him. But the question is, what was his motivation? Why did Onkelos do that? What was he after? What was his motivation to convert? Let's see. I'm sorry, your name, please?
Not me.
Not you.
I'm just learning.
You're just learning. All right, Ruth,
Me? You're asking why was.
if you would read the next text, please, text 5.
I'll read the next text, okay.
Yes,
Onkelos attracted them to Judaism with Torah passages that he cited with them.
I think you're on text 5, one earlier.
Page 9, bottom.
Okay, sorry, I'm sorry. Onkelos returned to his uncle Hadrian.
We have a lot of fact checkers here. We're on page 9, text 5.
Very
Oh,
bottom.
okay, bottom, bottom of what, 9?
Page 9.
Oh, here's page 9. Okay. Onkelos, the son of Colonus, converted to Judaism. So the son and the grandnephew converted.
No, dude, we're talking about the same Onkelos, the son of Colonius. Yeah.
Okay, Onkelos, the son of Colomnus, converted to Judaism. The Roman emperor sent a troop of Roman soldiers to seize him and bring him to the emperor. However, Onkelos attracted them to Judaism with Torah passages that he cited for them, and they converted. The emperor dispatched a second troop of Roman soldiers after Onkelos and ordered them to avoid discussions with him. As the soldiers arrested Onkelos and led him away, he said to them, let me tell you something trivial. A minor official holds a torch in front of a high official. The high official holds a torch for a duke for the governor, and the governor for the emperor. Now, does the emperor hold a torch before the common people? No, the soldiers replied. Onkelos continued, yet God holds a torch in front of the Jewish people as the Torah states. God went before them by day in a pillar of cloud to lead the way for them, and by night in a pillar of fire to provide light for them. Exodus 13:21. The entire troop converted to Judaism. The emperor dispatched a third troop of soldiers to arrest Onkelos. He ordered them not to talk to Onkelos at all. As the soldiers were leading Onkelos away, he saw a mezuzah affixed to a doorpost. He placed his hand on the mezuzah and turned to the soldiers, asking, what is this? You tell us, the soldiers replied. Onkelos explained to them, it is a standard practice throughout the world for a mortal king to sit inside his palace while his servants guard him from the outside. But not so the God of Israel. His servants, the Jewish people, sit inside their homes while he guards them from the outside. Thus it is stated, God shall guard your departure and your arrival from now and to eternity. Psalms 121:8, chapter 8. When the soldiers heard that, they also converted to Judaism. Consequently, the emperor sent no more soldiers after Onkelos.
There you go. So let's do a little summary. Onkelos. So first, Hadrian rebuilt Jerusalem and called it Aelia Capitolina. And he also renamed the entire area Syria Philistina, to remove the Jewish connection to the land. It was called Judea before. So he was the first one to actually remove that name. Bar Kokhba rebellion and retaliation. Hadrian's nephew converted to Judaism. Troops were sent to seize Onkelos, and what happened? They each converted to Onkelos. Now, this wasn't Onkelos trying to convert them. Again, it's not a Jewish value, but this was the idea that they were taken. So the question is, which element of Judaism attracted Onkelos and the Roman soldiers to Judaism? Which element? So, I mean, anybody want to, based on the last text, anybody want to offer some ideas? Donna?
Well, probably the last part was one part where he's saying that, you know, the king is inside being guarded and God is outside taking care of our people.
Okay. Robbie?
I was gonna say that a more personalized approach of God protecting.
Protecting. So
rather
same
than-
idea as Donna.
Right, rather than the monarch.
Okay. Yes, Dale?
And that, the element of trusting, that the people, the servants.
Bitachon.
Can trust that Hashem is going to.
Take care.
Take care of us.
Yeah.
And there's a close relationship. But I think the trust is the big deal.
Okay, the trust.
Well, and because there's a consistency in God's word and that it's not like 20 gods and we're gonna
Oh.
go away, we're gonna.
Oh.
da, 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 da.
That's a separate element. That's a separate element. Very good. The idea of, listen, the Romans were pagans. They had 150 gods, one for eyesight, one for earsight, one for good looks, one for good smells, one for the weather, one
But
for
they could
money.
turn on you at any minute.
And they could turn on you at any minute. There was zero immorality. There was zero morality. It was immorality was rampant. Because if you're feeling one way today, you go with this God. If you're feeling one way tomorrow, you go with this God. There's 1,000 gods out there. It's not a problem. But what attracted Onkelos and also the soldiers was this idea of one consistent truth. And that's what attracted Onkelos and the soldiers to Judaism. So these same principles are Jewish principles. They are what Abraham originally introduced into the world from the first Jew. This is a Jewish belief. That's what eventually attracted Onkelos as well. So what I want to do now is to see what did God's devotion to the Jewish people find. Now let's look at what did Onkelos contribute to the Jewish people. All right. If you go today, you open up a random Chumash. Chumash is a Torah. What's a Torah? All right, the 5 books of Moses. Now, when we say Torah, we don't mean the entire what the world calls Hebrew scriptures. We're just referring to the 5 books of Moses. All right. So when you look at a regular Chumash, you crack it open, you'll find the original text in Hebrew, and right next to it, you'll find something that says on top, Targum Onkelos. Targum Onkelos. Targum literally means translation, Onkelos of Onkelos. The Aramaic translation of the Torah. Why Aramaic? Depending on the time of history, Jewish people, the common word, we speak English here, was Aramaic back then. So Onkelos took the entire Torah and translated it to Aramaic. Now, why is that such a big deal? First of all, it's a big deal because many Jews didn't know how to read Hebrew. So they're able to study the Torah. And in addition, we're a little bit tight on time, but I do want to bring your attention to, in the appendix, you'll see some examples of how Onkelos slightly enhanced the translation, and we have to be careful with this. What do you mean enhance? You don't have the right to go around and enhance translations, right? So look at page 42 in your books. If you have a book in front of you, look at page 42 for a moment. Here's an example of a literal translation of the Torah and Onkelos translation of the Torah, the Aramaic translation, right? We see here, it says, we don't have the text up on the screen, but I'll read it for you. It says, the literal translation is, God descended upon Mount Sinai to the peak of the mountain. God summoned Moses to the peak of the mountain, and Moses ascended. Onkelos, what he did with that text is, he goes like this. God revealed himself on Mount Sinai, at the peak of the mountain, God summoned Moses to the peak of the mountain and Moses ascended. What's the difference? One says God descended, one says God revealed himself. What's the difference? Sounds the same, right? So when Onkelos, so we know descended means it's metaphorical for God who lives in the hiding, not the hiding. God is the veneer, the physical world around us is a veneer to cover over God's reality behind, right? But when God descends, I mean, he's descending from the spiritual into the physical. He's revealing himself. So what Onkelos did was, for your common folk, they're going to read with me, God descended. God took the elevator, he took the escalator, how did he descended? So he gives you a translation. It's very easy to understand, right? We have to be careful with texts of the Torah. We don't mess with them. There's many more examples there that you can look at as well. How Onkelos enhanced because of the simplicity of those in his generation. He did an incredible job, and he actually kept Judaism's study of Torah alive throughout his era because of this translation. It was a monumental work till today. There's an idea. Say again.
So what are we worried about, for example, in this slight change of?
What is he trying to add?
Yeah, or
Taking it literally can be confusing for a common person. God descended is a very literal thing that a regular unlearned person doesn't know how to eat that. What does that mean, God descended?
Was
Yes?
Onkelos speaking in, was his native language Roman or
Aramaic?
No.
I would assume his native language was,
Was it Latin?
yes, it was whatever the Roman Empire spoke at the time, probably, yes. But he learned
But he
Hebrew, he
So,
learned Aramaic.
so he learned Aramaic, and he was translating from the Hebrew to Aramaic.
Yes,
So, in between, he's got three languages that he's moving.
but
into.
he studied the original. He knew the original Hebrew, and he was a master of both languages, and he was able to translate from the original Hebrew into Aramaic.
But I think that also brought
Yes.
his concepts into it, his own language conceptions from the Latin.
So we can talk about that, but the idea is like this: the Talmud, right, and the Mishnah goes through these types of expressions. If you look, I want to give you another example, just quickly, because I don't want to spend a lot of time on this. If you look on the next one, text 2 in the appendix, you'll see there's another example there where it says the exact translation is God is saying, "When I raise my hand over Egypt." What does that mean? It's also very literal. God has hands. How many fingers does he have? I don't know, right? So what he's trying to say, in Onkelos' translation, he says, "When I raise my powerful strike over Egypt." Understand? He took a lot of the exact translations and made it very easy for people to read. Now, why couldn't God write it that way, right? In the Torah, right? Good question. I don't want to get into now, but it's a good question. But there's reasons for that. But we have a tradition of how to read Torah. The oral tradition teaches us how to read Torah. And what Onkelos did, he skipped the whole yada yada and gave you in the text exactly how to read it. Okay? So Onkelos translation. I'm trying to move this thing over, 10 seconds. Yes, Mike.
Yeah, while you're.
Well, I'm fidgeting, yes.
It's worth noting that we know what Hebrew writing looks like.
Yes.
It's important to note, I think, for the sake of Onkelos, that Aramaic writing uses the Hebrew
yes.
alphabet.
Thank you,
Hebrew
yes.
language. It is like French and Spanish, both written in Roman script. But Hebrew and Aramaic are cousins in a lot of ways.
Thank you, Mike. And there's a lot of similarities and rules. Like a dalid, like a Zion in Hebrew would be swapped out for a dalid. A Z sound would be swapped out for a D sound in Hebrew. A shin, SH sound will be swapped out for a T sound in Aramaic. There's a lot of these rules. So, but anyway, fine. Let's move on to another incredible person. Incredible convert in our history. So this is somebody by the name of Ovadia the convert. Okay? The most incredible thing is how we discovered this person. So Ovadia the convert let's read a text. Dale, you have a text in front of you?
Okay.
We should be on page 13. So you see that little paragraph about the convert? If you can read those 4 lines, please.
Another unusual historical case of conversion to Judaism is that of Obadiah the convert. In the early 12th century, Obadiah had been an Italian priest. His original name was Johann of Oviedo Lucano.
So how did we discover this incredible person? All right, here's the deal. There was a synagogue, an ancient synagogue in Egypt, in Cairo, called the Ben Ezra Synagogue. Now, every shul should have a geniza. What's a geniza? A geniza is a place where you go and you put sacred writings that you're not allowed to throw out, you're not allowed to burn, they have to be buried. So if you're writing a mezuzah and you write God's name, now it has a certain degree of holiness. This piece of parchment or paper has a certain degree of holiness. You're not allowed to throw that in the garbage. What do you do with it? You go and you bring it to the synagogue. They put it in the basement. When it piles up to wazoo, they call the truck. They bring it. They deliver it. They have a way how to bury it. Most cemeteries have a geniza section. In Leesburg, Virginia, there isn't any geniza section yet. But when I have a pile up of stuff, that always happens. I'm preparing for a class. I got to print stuff. What do you do with all those papers? You can't shred it. You can't throw it in the garbage. So you make a pile. Once in a while, you drive to New York. You go to the geniza place. They charge you by weight. There's a whole business, trust me. And they go and they put it away for you as the
Why didn't you go
respected
to
tradition
Baltimore?
is. What do you say?
I said, why didn't you go to Baltimore?
Why do you go to Baltimore? Whatever. I'm in New York more than I am in Baltimore. But anyway, so the geniza of this synagogue, the Ben Ezra synagogue in Cairo, which was from the 8th century, it was built in the 8th century. All right, this is what the actual synagogue looks like today. It is completely restored. So Avadiah's autobiography was discovered in the Cairo Geniza of the Ben Ezra cemetery, Ben Ezra synagogue. Now today, for some reason, it was never buried. The entire Geniza pile was never buried. We don't know why. And all the pieces of that Geniza are in many universities throughout the world, and they're actually going through page by page. We find manuscripts from the Rambam in this Ben Ezra synagogue. The Rambam is Maimonides, lived in Cairo towards the end of his life, and was an incredible contributor to Jewish life, and he was a giant, absolute giant. They say from Moses at Sinai till Moses, Maimonides, there was never like Moses. In other words, we put him up there like to the status of Moses. We find a lot of his manuscripts in the Ben Ezra synagogue in the Geniza. Now, what is his biography? So he tells a story of his own story in his biography. Now, it's not complete because we will see that he actually he's originally from Italy, and we will see that he had a dream that triggered him to convert and to explore Judaism. We don't know what the dream was because that part we don't have, but we have his reaction to the dream. But without further ado, let's go into it. This is an actual piece of the Geniza that was taken out. As you see, it's discolored and it's not complete. But towards the end of this, in my opinion, there's a pretty cool moment where we're going to see an actual poem and melody that was sung by Jews 1,500 years ago, 1,200 years ago. The oldest song sheet, musical sheet of musical notes in Judaism that we have was from Obadiah the convert that we found in the Ben Ezra synagogue. And what we've done here is we've actually translated to an actual song with the words. So we're going to hear at the end of this section the actual music and the actual songs and melodies that Jews sang 1,200 years ago in that area. And how do we have that? From this pile of Geniza that Obadiah the convert wrote the words and the musical notes. It's the oldest piece of sheet music we have today. So it's very cool. But let's see some text first. So he was born in around 1074. He was born. Where? In Italy, southern Italy. The family was of Norman origins, and at the time, the Normans occupied the southern part of Italy at that time. When he was first born, his name was Johannes, and he wrote this biography in third person. So it's him writing in third person about his own life. Mike?
So this is text 8,
7, please.
text 7, Ovidiah's birth, whose name is Apido. He took a wife named Maria, and Maria conceived and bore unto Drove, her husband, 2 sons on the same day. The firstborn, according to the usual manner of women as to their children, to whom they gave the name Rogerius, that is, Rogier. As for the second, his lower parts came out first. His mother bearing him with great pain, she gave him the name Johannes, that is, Johann. The youths grew up. Rogerius became a man who sought the sword and warfare, whereas Johannes became a man seeking knowledge and wisdom in books.
So it sounds familiar to what? What biblical story? Twins? One is wild, one is rich. Cain and Abel? No? Esau and Jacob. Yeah, sounds a little similar. He actually saw his own story similar to that. And that's why he saw that he was a twin. Second labor was difficult. He was righteous more studious, etc. Okay. So in his time, the Italian archbishop converts to Judaism, which has obviously sent waves. Today, we live in an era where religious divide doesn't result in death, for the most part, in our world today. Back then, religious divide was the biggest difference we could see between peoples, and it almost always led to the willingness to kill the other side, right? So this is what happened when the archbishop of Italian archbishop converts to Judaism. It's a big deal. It's on the front page of every newspaper back then. So let's see. Judy, you have a book?
Yeah.
No book. Ava, no. Okay. Sorry, your name again?
Beth.
Beth, yes, please. So Beth, you can read text 8.
It happened at that time regarding Archbishop Andreas, the high priest of the city of Bari, that the Lord put the love of the Torah of Moses into his heart. He forsook his land, his priesthood, and all his glory, and came to the city of Constantinople, where he circumcised the flesh of his foreskin. He endured sufferings and hardships. He arose and fled for his life from before the Gentiles seeking to slay him. But the Lord God of Israel saved him from their hands in purity. The Lord protects proselytes. Blessed be the Lord forever. Many went up after him, and observing his deeds, they did as he had done. They also entered the convent of the living God. All the sages of Edom, Christendom, were ashamed when they heard the report about him. Johannes heard of the events concerning him while he was still a youth in the house of Drove, his father.
So he was born in 1076. In 1074. In 1096, when he was 22 years old, Johannes himself became a priest. He was ordained as a priest himself. He was in a church in the Opido church in southern Italy. So we don't have the pieces of his biography. We don't have the full story right here. But what ended up happening after the archbishop was converted to Judaism, he decided to study the entire. What's his business? The quote Moses of his time in the church converts to Judaism. He said, after he was ordained as a priest, he said he wants to himself study the original text in the original language, which is Hebrew. And he went and studied Hebrew, learned Hebrew, studied it completely, and he decided to convert to Judaism in the year 1102, between August and September of 1102. Now, we have a document from Rabbi Baruch ben Yitzchak from Aleppo, which is recording and endorsing the conversion of Ovadia. The question is, why can he show his original conversion papers? We'll talk about that, but let's first see what Rabbi Baruch ben Yitzchak writes about Ovadia the convert in the year about early 1100s, right after the conversion of Ovadia. Let's look at text number 9. Mohammed, please.
The conversion process.
Yes, please.
To all places of worship and study unto whom this letter shall reach. May they be granted measures of peace. This man, the bearer of our letter, came to our city with an epistle from the sages was well in his land. They told us that this man is of a great family, that his father was an important officer, and that this man Obadiah is expert in the reading of the Christian religious books. Because of his understanding of what he read in the erroneous books, he returned to the Lord of Israel with all his heart, with all his soul, and with all his strength, and became a apostle in a low court of Israel. When he came to convert, they informed him that the Israelites were in sorrow, oppressed, despised, and scorned. He said to his informants, "Do I not know that the Israelites are despised and scorned? If only I would be worthy to join Israel." After it was discerned that he came out of love, they informed him of some lenient and some severe commandments. And they informed him of the punishment of infractions of the commandment. When he accepted all of his conditions, they circumcised him immediately. And when he was healed, they ritually immersed him. There were 2 stages there standing on either side of him. And they also reminded him of some lenient and some severe commandments. Thus was he made an Israelite for every matter. And now, O our brethren, blessed may you be unto heaven. Be careful of the honor of this man. Take care that you not injure him with words, that he be not injured by words. For the Lord has warned against injury and oppression toward him. As our rabbis taught, he who wants the feelings of a person transgresses the negative injunctions. This letter was written in his own hand by our master
Baruch.
The great and outstanding master, may he be guarded by heaven. Son of our master Yitzchak. Yitzchak. Okay. Yeah, we have that in
Baruch Yitzchak. You got to clear your throat. Yeah.
May his soul rest in peace. Our master Baruch wrote this letter that it might be kept by Obadiah the convert for use in all communities of Israel to which he might go.
So the conversion process is very good that it's very specific, that it highly discourages You know you're getting yourself into? You want to be part of the Jewish people, look at the suffering, look at the history, look at the restrictions. You sure you still want? So if someone persists, then we do it. But the thing here is that he throughout his conversion process, so what happened was there was discouragement. This is the way all conversions happen in Judaism. Number two is he learns about the obligation of the mitzvahs and the divine consequences. You know, you're not allowed to murder. And if you do, this is the so-and-so that happens in Judaism, or whatever other mitzvah it is. Then goes circumcision, and then goes what? A little spa mikvah dip. And this is how the Talmud describes the process of conversion. And this is still done today. And the state of Israel today, this is the process in order to be seen as a Jewish person in the state of Israel. Yes, Mike?
What's a mikvah?
What's a mikvah? Shkaya. Man has good questions. Thank you, Mike. A mikvah is a body of water that is pure rainwater, untouched by human hands. And it has to be, you can go to the mikvah in a river, you go to the mikvah in an ocean, you go to the mikvah in many places. A mikvah is a cornerstone of Judaism in a city. Before you have an obligation to build a synagogue, you have to build a mikvah. Why? Because it's also connected to purity, cleansing, and also it's about spiritual purity, not physical. But a woman, when a woman has her monthly cycle, at the end of that, there's a no-go. That means the husband and the wife cannot be intimate during that cycle. Once the cycle finishes, there's a 7-day period of waiting to ensure that there is no sighting of blood, and then a woman goes into the mikvah, and we could resume marital relations. Why is this all? It's really for a different class, but I want to impress upon you all that the mikvah is the cornerstone of a unity between husband and wife. Without a mikvah, husband and wife cannot be together. There is no continuation of the Jewish people. So a mikvah is the cornerstone of that. Part of the mikvah is when it comes to conversion, but the main core of why a mikvah is so important is for the marital life. Now, why rainwater? What's the problem with a cycle? What does that represent? It's out of this class, but I also don't want you to leave here perplexed. So give me 60 seconds, and then we'll move on. I'm sure you'll have questions. The sighting of blood from that was discharged from the uterus is a potential of human life that was not actualized. So obviously it's part of nature, but we recognize that impurity, all impurity is the vacancy and the vacuum of purity, of holiness. So when holiness is removed, impurity automatically is there. There's no middle ground. It's either here or there. It's either holy or impure. And when it's impure, it needs to be brought back to holiness. So this idea of a potential human life that is lost has to be, you have to go through a purification process. Now, why a mikvah? We have to tap into the holiest thing we have on earth. Should we get into this? Oh man. The mikvah, we should not get into it. It's just long and I don't want to do it halfway. No? Go. Okay, go. So the holiest thing we had on this earth was Adam and Eve before the Garden of Eden, before the sin of the tree of knowledge. That's the holiest physical manifestation that existed on this earth. Even when the Holy of Holies was here, even when the temple was here, there was nothing holier than the Garden of Eden before the sin of the tree of knowledge, according to Judaism. Now, if you read Genesis, that chapter, the Torah is talking about describing the scene of the Garden of Eden. And it talks about a river that goes to the east and to the west, rivers that are going outside of the Garden of Eden. This is the source of how we know to tap into the water that existed then is the same water we have today. It just gets recycled. So when pure water falls from heaven and is not touched by human hands, that is the purest form of water we have, because if you retract where that water came from, it existed in the Garden of Eden before the sin of the tree of knowledge. I hope that satisfies. That's what we'll talk about for today. Fine. By the way, the same exists with the male. If a male also expels seed. It's also a male needs to go through purification before attending certain spiritual things in the times of the temple, before eating, before attending the temple. You have to go through the mikveh as well. Today, the city of David is being unearthed. You guys know about that with the pilgrimage road? So this is the most active archaeological dig that's happening in the world today. They are making a pilgrimage road that, by the way, Jesus walked on, the ancient Hebrews walked on, which was what the Temple Mount is here. There was a pipe that busted, I think in 2003, in some parking lot in Israel. They dug and they realized there was some pool under it. That's the original mikveh for the Jewish people. That they would all come to the mikveh and then walk up a road to Temple Mount. So they said, if this is the mikveh and that's Temple Mount, there's got to be a road. You know what they did? They started digging. You know what they discovered? An absolute road, the biblical highway that they're discovering now 60 feet below the surface. So when you leave here, please just search City of David Pilgrimage Road. It is mind blowing. All I'm trying to say is the original, that was the mikveh. Jews came to the temple, went to mikveh, walked up the pilgrimage road. It's a cornerstone of Judaism. So let's, yes, Mike.
Since you're friendly with the guy who is
Yes.
running the city of David.
Yes.
The next time he comes into town, could
Yes.
you have him come to Lansdowne Woods and we have a talk?
That's not a bad idea. That's not a bad idea. He's been out here on Zoom many times, but yeah. He comes a few times a year. He stays at our house for Shabbat. He's always dealing with DC, but he stays at our house for Shabbat when he comes to this area. And he's maybe once or twice a year he spent Shabbat with us, so we can absolutely bake that in. Go ahead.
He's very interesting when he comes.
He comes, he sits around the Shabbat table and he's pulling things out of his pockets. This is from the Romans 2,000 years ago. He's taking gold coins, things that they found, incredible archaeological finds. So it's a pretty fascinating thing. All right, we've killed enough time on this. Let's keep on going. So, okay, here's where I want to, Avadia wandered, let's look at your text number 10. Text number 10, where are we holding? Yes, what's your name, miss? Sorry?
Harry.
Harry. T-E or T-A? T-E.
20.
Harry, thank you. Page 20, text 10.
Okay, that's the bottom.
Yes, please.
Okay, I don't have, but.
Just estimate, guesstimate.
Then went from the city of and came to
Rehovot.
which is now the river Euphrates, when Obadiah the convert came to the city of Adida, which is in Baghdad, capital of the Ishmaelite. There then came upon him tribulation, and the Gentiles sought to slay him, but the Lord God saved him. Obadiah the convert came, and he stood before the doorway of the synagogue. The academy, the servant installed Obadiah the convert in the house in which the Jews would pray, and they brought him provisions. It happened thereafter that Yitzhak, the head of the academy, directed that Obadiah the convert be with the orphan youths, and in order to teach him the Torah of Moses, the words of the greatest of the prophets in the script of the Lord and the language of the Hebrews.
So Avadia originally came from a Christian part of the world, and he was Christian. So when he converted to Judaism, his main threat was not from the Muslim community, because the Muslim community didn't mind if a Christian converted to Judaism back then. What was their issue? The issue was somebody who was Muslim converted to Judaism. So when he was making his way through, and he ended up from Baghdad to Egypt, he skipped Israel. Why did he skip Israel? Because Israel was under Crusader rule at the time, and Crusader rule was Christian, and his main issue was coming face to face with people. He was a high profile person, so he avoided the Christian lands and he went through only Muslim lands because he was, again, a Christian converting to Judaism, which was not seen as a problem from the Muslim community at the time. So what he did was he reached Egypt. He wrote his autobiography in Egypt, and here is where we have a beautiful song about Moses and the Torah that was written by Obadiah the convert. And testing 1, 2. We're going to try to play it here. We have an issue with the sound, but this is the original music that he wrote the words for. And he actually wrote the musical notes. And this is what Jewish people sang 1,200 years ago. So let's see what this has to offer. Composed Jewish song. He composed this Jewish song. He himself composed this song. Good. You guys hear it well?
Yeah.
Obadiah the convert wrote the oldest surviving piece of Jewish sheet music. These pages were preserved in the Geniza storage room of Cairo's Ben Ezra synagogue, which Obadiah would have frequented. Recently renovated, the Ben Ezra synagogue still stands in its original location. This is the song.
Yeah.
That's just so beautiful.
So you can sort of share.
It's not Also, why don't we sing that song in service?
Became, I don't know anything.
What'd you say, Dale?
It really sounded that he had roots in Catholicism.
Yes.
Wow,
It's
interesting.
like a Gregorian
And hear
chant.
that.
It has that, when I've been to a church, it has that kind of resonance.
But those
trails
trails
are
are
really
really
Middle
Middle Eastern.
The church.
It follows from the Middle Eastern congregation chant.
Yeah.
It's a combination.
This is like a feel of the past. This is that's actual Hebrew. I can read it.
Hebrew.
Yeah, that was Hebrew, yes. These are words that you took any first grader in Hebrew school can read this. It's incredible that 1,000 years later, we can still have this. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Oh, no chopped liver. No. I'm just saying this still exists today. So he wrote this song. It is a beautiful song for Shavuos. And this is his contribution. The way it was discovered is mind blowing.
Yes.
For some reason, thank God they didn't bury that pile of Geniza. And again, you can Google it after the class. You'll see that this trove is all over many universities trying to look at every single piece and decipher what's going on. If you look at page 24 on your books, you'll see the journey that Avadia the convert took throughout starting off in Italy and then throughout the Middle East, eventually living in Cairo and passing away there. Okay.
Another story would be the story of the life of that synagogue, that thing is still there.
Yeah, it was recently restored. Yeah. Thank God. There's a lot of, by the way, I was speaking to somebody last week about an effort to now, I don't know if there's a difference, but to now go and restore many synagogues in Damascus. For some reason, there is some sort of, I don't want to turn this into a political conversation, but there is some sort of opportunity politically now to go and do that. So there's a lot of Syrian communities that are living in Deal, New Jersey, in Flatbush that are trying to go and raise money and restore all the synagogues that once were such cornerstones of that community. Okay, the last convert we're going to discuss here today is a person by the name of Avraham ben Avraham. Now his ending is a little bit different than the previous two converts. You'll find out why. It's not so very nice, not so very exciting at the end. But let's see page number 26. I'm sorry, what's your name? Yes. Marla, if you could please read page 26, that paragraph, Avraham ben Avraham.
The above cases illustrate the steep prices that converts to Judaism have historically paid for their beliefs.
Onkelos
and Obadiah fled their homeland to save their lives, but other converts did not manage to escape persecution. In the following case, a famous convert paid the ultimate price, and he did so willingly and happily.
All right, so our current story is going to take us to the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, in the 18th century. There was a member of the famous Potocki family. It was a local word for noble, Potocki, noble. Familiar? Okay. And he actually converted to Judaism, which was obviously strictly illegal in Poland and Lithuania at the time. But the very discussion about conversion in print was already a big crime at the time as well. So the first time the story appears is in 1862 in a small booklet called Gerei HaTzedek. And now we're going to read from Gerei HaTzedek, which talks about this Christian young lad from the Potocki family and his journey. And there's actually, I'm going to show you a link later where they actually found this in England in 1700s. They actually found an original piece where in England they are describing this story as well. We're going to look at that soon. But let's first see from a Jewish source, text number 12. Remind me your name. Jack, thank you. Text number 12.
The year was 5479 or 1719. Polish nobleman named Potocki had a brilliant son. The local University of Vilna no longer sufficient for the boy, so his father sent him to study in Paris. At the same time, a nobleman in the region of S, named Zabrai, also had a brilliant son, and he was also sent to study in Paris. The two young men became very close friends. One day, as the two young men were strolling in the garden, they happened across an old man reading a book, engrossed in study. Impressed by the way the old man was studying, the young man asked him, "What is the name of the book that you are studying? What are the contents? Theology or some other subject?" The old man told them, "It is a book of the divine Torah." "Please teach us from this precious book," the young man asked the venerable elderly scholar. We also wish to learn this Torah of truth." "My dear children," the old man responded, "I cannot teach you from this book because you will not understand its contents and style. Also, you are forbidden from studying this book by law because it is contrary to your religion." "Listen to us, wise old man," the young student said. "God has blessed us with great intelligence. Have mercy on us and teach us this dear Torah. Do not be afraid of government. We will keep it secret. Please do this for us and show us the light." The old man had mercy on the students and studied with them. They studied Torah for 6 months and understood it well. They recognized that the Jewish religion is the truth and could no longer tolerate their religion. "Can we just stay here all our lives?" they asked each other. "Let us travel to Amsterdam, and there we will convert."
So he wanted to travel with his friend Valentine, and his friend wanted to travel to Amsterdam to convert, but he didn't have any money. So he told his father that he wants to travel to the Vatican to have a little study, to deepen his studies. You can know that didn't go so well, but he eventually went and traveled to Amsterdam, converted in Amsterdam to Judaism. Now, this obviously was kept a big secret, and he ended up, let's look at the next text, he ended up traveling to a very remote place to go away from everyone and just study Torah, and he was later discovered. Let's see text number 13. I guess we'll go back to Shayla. Why not? Text 13.
The righteous Pataki traveled from Amsterdam to Lithuania. He spent every moment of his time engrossed in Torah study or prayer. His heart was completely devoted to Torah, and he would fast and subject his body to afflictions. He praises cannot adequately be told in writing. During prayer, his eyes would pour with rivers of tears. One day, this holy man came to the synagogue and saw a young man, the son of the local tailor, laughing and shouting and wildly throwing his hat in the air in front of the synagogue's holy ark. Pataki was very upset, and he scolded the young man. "You insolent fellow, why aren't you showing respect for God? How can you stand in a synagogue in front of the ark with your head uncovered? Put your hat back on." The young man's wicked father was enraged, and he went to the local nobleman and told him, "You should know that the lost son of the great nobleman Pataki is in our town, sitting in the synagogue. He has converted to Judaism, and he sharply denigrates your religion. Send officers to arrest him before he flees." The nobleman did as the wicked man advised. He brought 300 officers. They surrounded the town. They arrested Pataki and placed him in prison, bound in iron shackles.
So,
What happened to his friend?
good question. So his friend didn't have the money to travel, so his friend stayed behind. The tradition has it that he actually also ended up converting to his own path. But yes, a good question. Yeah. So he discovered the truth of the Torah and converted to Amsterdam, returned anonymously to Poland, where he was discovered and imprisoned. Now, in Judaism throughout our history, one of the highest forms of service to God was being loyal to God. And if that meant your life is taken by whatever power there was, that was one of the highest forms of serving Hashem. Now, We don't search to give up our life. That's not a Jewish value. There's actually a big split between Rabbi Akiva and Abraham. Rabbi Akiva would look forward and try to merit such a high level of devotion to God. Abraham was not focused on that. Abraham was focused on his mission. If that meant also to give up his life, he was happy to do it. Just giving you the differences, but it's not a Jewish value to give up your life for God. It's not a Jewish thing we pursue. It is a value if we're met at that intersection and you want to do it, and that's your fate. It's an okay thing to do. And we have obviously on Yom Kippur, we read about the 10 martyrs, where each one was saying in the moment, the last moments before the Romans took their life, that they were happy to give up their life for Hashem. But this Avraham ben Avraham, known as Valentine, was discovered, and he didn't try to persuade his way out of it. He said, "This is my fate. I accept." So let's see. Text 14, please, Joan.
Okay, the ruling was given. Abraham's tongue should be ripped out of his mouth, and he should be burned at the stake on the second day of Shavuot.
Sorry for the gruesomeness, okay?
The day of the giving of the Torah. He indeed rose to heaven on that day, and the Jewish people mourned bitterly the murder of the special man. All the Jews of Vilna prayed at home on that day, pouring copious tears. They peered through the shadows and saw him being led to the stake, his face shining like the sun. He went joyfully, like a man dancing toward God's mountain.
Get familiar?
I'm done. Carry on.
Can you get some more?
No.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, okay, yes. I got lost. Okay. So this is what happened. What would happen? What happened? What did he say on his final moments? Which prayer was he reciting in his final moments of life? Let's see. What did he say? Shema? Okay, wait, let's see. Ron, please. Text 15.
Final prayer. But we are your nation, the people of your covenant, the children of Abraham, your beloved, to whom you swore on Mount Moriah, the descendants of Isaac, his only son, who was bound on the altar of the community of Jacob, your firstborn. Therefore, it is incumbent upon us to thank, praise, and glorify you, to bless, to sanctify, and to offer praise and thanksgiving to your name. Fortunate are we, how good is our position, how pleasant our lot, and how beautiful our heritage. Fortunate are we who early in the morning and the evening, twice each day, declare, Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one. Sanctify your name in your world upon the people who hallow your name. Through your salvation, our King, rise and exalt our strength, and deliver us speedily for the sake of your name. Blessed is he who sanctifies the name among the multitude.
So this is Aval Anachnu, it invokes faith, martyrdom. So it's sung today. It's even sung today. So what we'll do is we'll try to play another song. This song of this prayer that's sung, and we'll learn about this Avram ben Avram who's prayed and where it is today.
The righteous convert Avraham ben Avraham was sentenced to death for converting to Judaism. Refusing all entreaties to abandon Judaism, he was burned at the stake in Vilna on the second day of Shavuot, 1749. The grave of Avraham ben Avraham in the old Vilna Jewish cemetery was a popular pilgrimage site for generations. This cemetery was destroyed by the Soviets in 1950. Tradition has passed down the tune with which Avraham sang some of his final prayers.
אבל אנחנו עמך, בני מריסך, בני אברהם, אוי הבך, שנשבעת עלי בהר המוריה, זרע יצחק יחידי, שנקד על גבי המזבח. אבל אנחנו עמך, בני וריסך, בני אברהם, אוי הבך, שנשבעת עלי בהר המוריה, זרע יצחק יחידי, שנקד על גבי המזבח.
His story inspired many. They later were able to find this his grave remains, and they moved it. So it still exists today. There was always a question if this story was a fact or a legend. And Rabbi Endem recounts the core elements of the story in 1755. What's interesting is in 1753, the British newspaper report parallels key elements of the story. And you'll see it was a report of the London Magazine or the Gentleman's Monthly Intelligencer. So let's see from text 16, Robbie. There's actually, you can see an actual on page 35, you can see an actual, the actual clipping from that newspaper, but let's read that text.
From Vilna in Poland, June 11th, we have an instance equally shocking of Popish Catholic revenge against a Jew as follows. The court of judicature in this city sentenced a few days ago against an apostate named Raphael Santamani, a native of Croatia, who after being educated in the Christian religion, renounced it at the age of 12 years, embraced Judaism, and took the name of Abraham Izakowicz. While he was in prison, several zealous priests daily visited him, shewing him the heinousness of the crime of apostasy and exhorting him to repent and return to the church. And for a day or two, they had some hopes of reclaiming him, but they soon found themselves mistaken. He was so hardened that neither the torments he was to suffer nor the offer of a pardon could make any impression on him. The 9th instant he was led to execution. Being arrived under the gallows, the executioner plucked out his tongue and flung it into the fire before his face. And then, with his hands tied behind him, he was thrown alive into a heap of blazing faggots, sticks. When his body was consumed, the ashes were scattered in the wind. This poor wretch suffered death with great resolution, not so much as a groan or the least sign of fear having escaped from him.
So it's obviously there are some discrepancies in the story. The year is 4 years off. There's also the name is a different name completely. But we say that it could be the discrepancies are because, well, the age thing could be, the year could be easily explained. But the name difference, it could be the Patutsky family did not want to have their name associated with such an event. But regardless, what we're trying to focus on is not the gruesome details or the religious divide. We're trying to focus on these incredible Jews, these incredible converts that contributed to our history. And you look at in their era, they sacrificed everything because in their mind and in their belief, they want to get closer to God. And that is what we're after. We're after that inspiration. So this is a story of these three amazing converts to Judaism. Again, the point is to learn about the history. Next week, we're going to be discussing how did a Torah sage in the 11th century of Spain command a Muslim army? That's the first guy we're going to be discussing. The second person is how did a child born in suffocating shadows of the Portuguese Inquisition fling open the gates of Jewish wisdom to non-Jewish scholars and force the gates of England to open his oppressed brethren. That's another incredible story. And the third one is how did the relationship between a leading Italian rabbi and his young non-Jewish German pupil save the Talmud from destruction and establish it as a source of wisdom for all of humanity. That's going to be next week. So we're going to play a short video of, this is an optional section. We're going to skip based on the time that we have already over time. And then we'll open it for questions, and maybe we'll take a group photo. Yeah, everyone smile. All right, let's first do the lesson.
Lesson 1. Courageous Converts. Narratives. 1. Onkelos was born into the Roman royal family shortly after the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem in the 1st century CE. Attracted to the revolutionary Jewish concepts of a single God who cares for his people and guides them, Onkelos risked his life to convert to Judaism. He became the author of the first translation of the Torah, a monumental work studied until today. 2. Long-lost documents uncovered in the Cairo Geniza capture the fascinating story of an Italian priest named Johannes, who converted to Judaism in the early 12th century. Johannes became Ovadia and was forced to flee his home country in order to live as a Jew. He endured wanderings and difficulties in his life, but he enriched Jewish worship with his liturgical music. 3. Valentine Potocki was the brilliant young son of a Polish nobleman who converted to Judaism in the mid-18th century. Known by the Jewish name Avraham ben Avraham, he was arrested by the authorities in Lithuania and sentenced to death. He steadfastly refused offers to save his life if he returned to Christianity, and he went to his execution joyfully. The story of his incredible dedication and sacrifice has inspired generations of Jews. General points. 1. Unique among world religions, Judaism does not believe that non-Jews need to join it, and potential converts are actively dissuaded. Nevertheless, Judaism does accept converts who are persistent, with the understanding that these people possess a latent Jewish soul. 2. Converts to Judaism are considered to possess particularly powerful souls. Over the generations, converts have made unique contributions to Jewish life.
All right, next week.